Our two ICM champions, Emma and Wolfgang, are leading another meeting of the regional stakeholder group. This group meets monthly working towards their shared goal of more integrated and effective management for a critical congested corridor. Let's check in with the group as their discussion turns to how to successfully incrementally deploy ICM concepts.
Welcome back, everyone. In fact, please welcome a new member of the working group, Cassandra from Parking Management. We identified Cassandra as a critical stakeholder during our last meeting. Parking is a key consideration for our corridor, especially in the downtown area.
Welcome, Cassandra. Can you get a parking ticket dismissed for me?
Sorry, Cassandra. I promise that isn't the real reason we invited you here today. Today's objective is to discuss actions needed to incrementally build our integrated corridor management, or ICM capabilities, as more stakeholders come on board.
Everyone at the table here has bought into the concept and is actively pursuing ICM for Alligator City. What is holding us back? Why such a slow incremental deployment?
It is not possible or desirable for us to jump straight to an end-state ICM capability, all in one concentrated effort. Our incremental approach enables ICM deployment to maintain forward evolutionary momentum, building smart and steady towards a more complete and effective ICM capability. The Federal Highway Administration has released a primer for building an ICM deployment over time.
Thank you, Emma. In fact, the Federal Highway Administration has created some strategic planning exercises for early deployers that include key considerations for a successful ICM deployment.
So how do we get the ball rolling and keep the momentum for our ICM deployment?
I think one of the first things we can do to overcome early challenges is get an early ICM win. We could focus on major incidents in the tunnel to clearly demonstrate the value of ICM.
Sylvia is right. At this stage, we should focus on getting an early win. We also need to make sure we have the right stakeholders around the table.
Yes, we're happy Cassandra joined us. And to encourage others to participate, we can highlight the notion all stakeholders are dependent on corridor performance in Alligator City.
Exactly. And emphasize that good corridor management should be a win-win for the stakeholders involved. Once our ICM deployment is off the ground, we have to have a strategy to communicate the day-to-day benefits of ICM to the public and stakeholder agencies.
We are off to a great start with Emma and Wolfgang as our clear ICM champions, and a broad coalition of organizations and expertise.
We can think of our ICM deployment along an ICM capability maturity spectrum, based on the level of institutional, technical, and operational integration. Based on the maturity of the ICM system, we might classify a deployment into the following types of deployments: early, durable, and transformative. Since we are still in the early deployment conceptual stage, we are classified as an early ICM deployment. The FHWA primer, Build Smart, Build Steady, provides information on other, more advanced categories, including durable and transformative ICM deployments.
As we are at the early stage, we can put the first step of conducting an ICM capability maturity model assessment on hold for now. Once we've built some ICM capital, we can conduct these assessments periodically or at key milestones. We can do the Step 1 exercise to decide where to further invest and make progress.
Correct. Our focus now is on Step 2. We'll have periodic planning meetings with ICM stakeholders to identify the set of high-priority strategic actions we need to move the deployment forward.
Using the results from these meetings, and as our ICM deployment evolves, we will update and adapt the institutional, technical, and operational agreements among ICM stakeholders.
So that's how we maintain forward momentum. Following this continuous improvement cycle over time helps us build smart and steady towards a shared ICM vision. We'll be ready to take on a range of technical, financial, and institutional challenges.
For ICM to sustain interest, we need to establish several task forces.
I envision that the task forces would operate under the umbrella of this group and our existing regional planning meetings. They could coordinate, create, investigate, and enhance capabilities in specific topic areas.
The FHWA Build Smart, Build Steady Primer provides various types of task forces we may need over the course of our ICM deployment.
I can take the lead on the task force.
Great, thank you, Raj. Our early deployment will likely have limited number of task forces in key areas, but as our deployment matures, we can have additional task forces for others to lead. But we do need a performance measurement task force to identify actions for building and enhancing performance measurement capability. Why don't you lead that?
There are 3 distinct ICM continuous improvement process phases. Depending on the maturity of the ICM system, there are specific actions that need to be taken under each phase.
In our current early deployment conceptual phase, our goal is to build institutional arrangements that will lead to early wins.
In this phase, the key steps are: prioritize top corridor needs, identify potential stakeholder impact and coordinated response, create and update vision, goals, and outcomes, and finally, create and update institutional arrangements.
In the build and enhance stage, we'll focus primarily on technical arrangements and capabilities. In the operate and monitor stage, we will identify the required operational coordination to realize the technical capabilities we recognized in the earlier stages. For more information on advanced second and third stage deployments, please refer to the FHWA Build Smart, Build Steady Primer.
In the coming weeks, we'll start holding our task force meetings to identify needs, goals, actions, and institutional arrangements.
Then, we can schedule a larger exercise to come to a consensus on a high-priority action punch list to get our ICM deployment started towards an early win. The primer provides structured all-day exercises for various ICM deployment maturity levels.
You just heard Emma, Wolfgang, and the ICM working group discussing incrementally deploying ICM concepts. See you in the next segment.